This video is going to cover the topic of graphing in 4 quadrants. Be sure the date and topic are at the top of your page. The essential question for this video will be, how do we graph in all 4 quadrants? We have worked a lot with coordinate graphs. We have worked with coordinate pairs, as well as the x and y axis. But did you know that all the work we've done has been in just a small part of the coordinate graph? In fact, we've only used 1/4 of the entire graph, to be exact. There are 3 other sections to a coordinate graph that we have yet to explore. This video is going to let us take a look at those other sections. Here's a picture of a coordinate graph that we have been working with. Go ahead and make sure you have this copied in your journal. We know that we can plot the point 3, 4, for example, by marking it here. Right? Here's our point 3, 4. That's nothing new. But we also by now have learned that we can extend our number line. And by extending our number line, we are going to grow our coordinate graph. So we just need to remember that our x-axis is really just a number line. And I can make my number line go below 0. Go ahead and add the number line to the left of 0. With my number line in place, I also want to go ahead and just label these points, or these spots, on my x-axis, starting at -1 and decreasing. Now I have 2 sections in my graph. So if I wanted to, I could plot the point -3, 4, and that would be right here, because it's -3 on this number line on the x-axis and 4 on the y-axis. But there's more to the coordinate graph than even just these 2 sections. We can also extend the number line that is the y-axis into negative numbers. So I'm going to make my number line for my y-axis now. Sorry, there's my y. My y-axis go down just like on a thermometer. The temperature goes down below 0 vertically. I can extend my number line vertically below 0. And of course I still need to mark these numbers, so I have -1, -2, and so on for these lines. And as always, I'm using the lines, not the spaces in between, to mark my numbers. With that line, I now have all 4 sections to my graph, and I could have coordinate points in any of these sections. So I could have a point right here, and this point would be -5 on the x and -3 on the y. I could also put a point right here, right? This would be a 1, +1 on my x-axis and a -5 on my y-axis. Now that we've seen all 4 sections of our coordinate graph, we're just going to talk about how we name these sections. These sections are actually called quadrants. Quad is the prefix for 4, so that makes sense because there are 4 sections to my coordinate graph. Quadrants are the 4 sections of our graph. We number our sections so that we can keep them straight and we can reference them, and other people can know which one we are talking about if we're talking about a quadrant. The basic section that we've always used is called quadrant 1. From there, we number them by going counterclockwise. So to the left, we have quadrant 2. Maybe I should put a little mark around here so you can see. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2. Then, if we continue counterclockwise, in the bottom left-hand corner, we have quadrant 3. And then, our final quadrant, here in the bottom right, is quadrant 4. Notice too, or you might have noticed, that we use Roman numerals when we are numbering our quadrants. So it looks like an I, a double I, triple I, and then IV. But it really means 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's just kind of a customary tradition with math to use Roman numerals. Now that we have the basic terminology for the coordinate graph, let's try plotting a few points. Let's try plotting a few points and determining the quadrant that the points are in. So I have a list here that we'll go ahead and plot. Take a moment for yourself and think about where you think these would go. So let's make sure our coordinates match. And let's take a moment to see which quadrant each of these is. So the first one, -1, 3, is over here in the second quadrant. Think about which one the next one is. 4, -2. I see that down in the fourth quadrant. -3, -5 is down in the third quadrant. And 5, 4 is in our original first quadrant. For your turn, I'd like you to do kind of the opposite. So I've plotted some points for you, and I'd like you to record the value of each of those 2 points, A and B, and identify which quadrant each of them are in, just as a quick practice. And remember that our essential question is, how do we graph in 4 quadrants? And now we've seen what the different quadrants are and how we graph in each of them. We will, of course, be practicing more in class. So be sure to bring any questions you might have.